All right, guys, welcome back to almost the final day of the build on the sedan. We are down to a few little details now, and one of them being the throttle cable bracket. I still need to find one that works with the stock throttle cable. If not, I'll have to switch that out, but that's not a big deal. I do have extras, and as far as the build aspect goes, you can find different ones also in the salvage yard as well, whether it be from 92 Civics or from 94 Integra, anything, all of those will work as far as going into the pedal, but they're going to be different lengths outside as far as like where the actual threaded nut part is versus where it goes into the actual throttle body blade. So I did change the throttle body. I'm waiting on a gasket. I'm actually going to pull that off and clean it because it's super dirty. But I was having issues with the Skunk 2 that was on there. It has very high idle, and I've had that before with the Alpha series. So I'm going to try to get that rectified, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. That throttle body will work just fine. So throttle cable, clean the throttle body, get a gasket. Redo the fuel hose there for the fuel rail, the hose, because again it's too close to the throttle body and we can't put an intake on there. I am waiting for it to cool down so I can open the radiator and top it off, and then top off the actual reservoir. Spoiler alert, it does run. I haven't really made any videos. I made a short about it. But that was just to literally just put one out there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a more detailed video today. I also put the AC belt on because it had not been on. So I went ahead and just did that today. Now that I know that it's running and it's proven and everything's good. So I'm going to start buttoning up all the little small stuff. There's still a lot I got to do with the car itself. Like I said, I made a post on Facebook that the engine's in, but I'm only about 50% done with the car. And it's very true because we still need to go through the suspension, tighten up some of that stuff. It needs a new inner tie rod on the driver's side. I still got to put all the interior back in it. I just put the seat in there so I can sit in there and, you know, pump the clutch and do all that sort of stuff. So I still need to take that out, put all the center console, all the plastics back in. On the rear suspension, I have everything on there, but it's not all tight. So I just went ahead and kind of put it all on there so I could adjust the ride height. And I wanted to get the engine in and all that done, everything I need to do from the bottom, so that way I can go ahead and tidy up everything down there, and then I can get it on the ground so I can go ahead and verify the ride height on the front, because until the engine is in there, I couldn't do that. So like I said, final little steps, but it feels good. It kind of sucks because I really like doing swaps and things that I get to take my time on, that I get to clean and kind of make mine. I mean, a lot of people have seen my EG, and it is very, very clean. The only thing I would say that I would like to be different on that car would be the actual engine bay being a little bit cleaner as far as the chassis itself. It is the original red paint, yada, yada, yada. This one, it had very good paint, but it still has its cosmetic flaws. It's not going to be perfect, but hey, you know, that's a car for you. If you want to make them perfect, hey, I give more power to you. I honestly like doing really clean swaps, making sure they're really, really sound, making it look pretty OEM, and making it very, very simple. And that's what I tried to do with this build, is be able to show people that you can do this swap, and it is very simple if you just follow the steps. You can use 90% of everything that came with the car, obviously aside from the motor. I did have to swap out the O2 sensor. So the O2 sensor is actually the one that came with this car. There's a few sensors on the engine, like the knock sensor. It came from this car. The power, or the AC system, the full system, it came with the car. I mean, what else? You know, all the wiring. So the wiring harness is 100% unmodified, untouched. You guys saw the previous video where I built this distributor, and this is the exact one that was on there. This is the plug, like I said, that we had to change out all the internals. So we swapped the, the internals out on the distributor to OBD2B to use with that. Yes, it works. RPM works perfectly. I know that there's been a big discrepancy with that because OBD2B cars don't use the reference off of the igniter, but when you swap them over, it actually will work. So I'll hop in here and show you guys here in a second. I just kind of wanted to go through the chassis a little bit. So we did get the radiator in there. It is a dual core aluminum B series style, and the only thing that differentiates that is literally the ports that are on here. So these ports are bigger for the B series hose. The D series hose are smaller. I would always suggest getting at least an aluminum radiator, at least a dual core, and make sure it's for a B series. You don't want to go clamping your B series hoses down to a smaller diameter because it just causes it to want to burst around here, and it just puts a lot of unnecessary pressure where obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure from coolant. So we did do that. I did put this on as well, so you can see that the nipple now that used to go back is completely gone. Sorry, it's kind of blurry. So there used to be a nipple here that I took to Rob over at YTS, my buddy, and we grinded that off and then welded that hole shut. And then I went ahead and put it back on with Honda Bond. You're supposed to wait like 24 hours or something like that before you put any pressure on there or coolant. But as of right now, everything looks good, no leaks. I checked all the hoses. All the hoses don't have any leaks. There is a little spot of oil underneath that you can see right there, but you can also tell that it is actually old oil, so it looks like it's just dripping off of the drain plug right there. That was just some excess around it, and once it got hot, it kind of started dripping because it doesn't look fresh to me at all, which is fine because we need to drain the oil anyways. I just put some in there to get it started, flush out everything because the engine was apart. We had the valve cover off, I had the oil pan off, did a new oil pan gasket and rear main seal and all that sort of stuff. So we needed to have some oil in there, flush out the system, and then that way I'll drain that old oil and put a new filter on it. Same with the transmission. I only put a quart of oil in there and ran it through the gears and made sure all that works properly. And then I'm going to drain that quart of oil out also, and I'm going to use some synchro mesh in there. That's sort of an old school thing. A lot of guys don't really use that anymore. I still like using that in B series transmissions. So I always use the Valvoline synchro mesh or BG if you can get it, but Valvoline works just as well. There's still a few other things that I need to do. I need to tidy up that wire right there, and then also that power steering hose is riding on the alternator, so I need to get that up out of the way. The bolts are not in the downpipe, so that is one thing that obviously we'll have to modify a little bit. It does touch, and it is actually in there, so it is actually pretty quiet, but the bolt holes don't line up because the flange on the header is bigger than the flange on the downpipe, or the cat back basically. So that's fine. And then other than that, like I said, the other items, we could not use the stock shift linkage obviously because D series shift linkages will not work, but this is a Integra shift linkage from 94 to 2001, and this is actually from a Type R, that's why it's zinc coated. But as you can tell, it is in a very, very good position. It is kind of low, but again, that's, it's not too bad, especially if you have like a little bit lower seat. This would be a good good position. I would kind of like it maybe up a little bit higher, but again, I just made this just to show people that the Integra shift linkage does 100% work in the EK. You don't have to get an EK B series shift linkage. You don't have to buy an aftermarket one. 100% stock Integra one works just fine. And I do have the solid bushings in here, So that play right there is only the play that's inside the transmission itself from the detent springs. There's no play other than that, so it's very crisp, very firm. We'll see how that works out. I've seen some people that have some issues with the solid bushings, but the motor is very solidly mounted. But as far as everything running, just wanted to hop in here and show everybody that the gauge cluster does work and everything else. So definitely 100% works. No check engine light. All the sensors are plugged in. I believe there's only 2 sensors that aren't. AC does work, so 100% works right now. Blows nice and cold, and sometimes after I do that, it has a little idle surge, but 100% works. And that is a very simple swap. Now, of course, this is a VTEC swap. You don't necessarily have to put a VTEC motor in here, but the same would go for putting an LS, B18B1 or a B20 out of a CRV. 100% everything that went onto this would still work. You would still use the AC bracket from the CRV, so you could have your AC work. You would still use the stock factory harness. You just wouldn't use the VTEC, the 2 VTEC plugs there, for the oil pressure and for the VTEC solenoid. But that doesn't matter because you can still use the harness. The harness is what's important. And again, these are probably the easiest cars to swap because of that. So if this car was not an EX, which it is, but if it wasn't an EX, I could literally go to the salvage yard and go buy a 99 2000 Civic EX harness from a D16 Y8 and put it in this car, and it would be completely separate from the body, and everything would plug in the exact same. If this car wasn't an EX, if it was a DX, that's what you could do to get this harness and make it plug and play just like it is right now. Again, we had to modify the distributor, but that's because it is a VTEC distributor. They do make OBD2B non-VTEC distributors out of the CRV, so you could actually use that on a non-VTEC, but on a VTEC we had to modify that. But that is very simple. If you're able to do all of this and get this far, you would 100% be able to modify that distributor, take it apart and put it together and not have any issues. I didn't show the first startup, but literally you missed absolutely nothing. I primed up the engine, I let it turn over and build oil pressure, and then I plugged in the injectors and plugged in the distributor, and literally 4 cranks, it started right up. It did surge up to about 2500 because of the throttle body issue, but I did take that off and put the stock, it's like a B16 or something like that, throttle body with no fast idle air control. That doesn't even have a gasket in it right now, so it could be a little bit higher than normal. But put that on, plugged it in, and that's exactly how it runs right now with that setup. So like I said, these cars are super simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You can 100% do this in your garage, in your driveway, whatever. I just wanted to make this video. Yes, I have a shop, but that doesn't mean that I haven't done this in multiple driveways, in multiple garages. You know, I didn't have this growing up. I started doing this in like 2004. And I had since been out of this Honda game for a very long time, and we've been back in it for about 2.5 years now. But this is where we're at now. Like I said, we mostly sell parts. It's not really here to show that we're gonna start doing builds or anything like that, although I would like to, but that's not really our main MO. I just like building these cars because it's fun. It kind of takes my mind off of things, and obviously it helps us market too. So we're gonna go over what was used on this car, how much it costs, if you were to buy each part from us, whether we have it in stock, if we can supply it, if you can come get it, whatever. And then, like I said, there's still a few more things that I want to do to the actual chassis itself, because obviously it's not done. Got to put on the front end, I got to put on the lip, I have PCI side skirts on the way. This car is going to look pretty different, pretty cool, pretty aggressive. and then obviously have a really good looking V series in it too. So if you guys like this, definitely drop a comment. You know, subscribe to the channel. I would love to do more stuff like this, and of course you're going to see a lot more of this car. We're going to take it to Arkansas here, and we'll be there on Halloween day for the Boston Mountain Tour. So if you're doing that, you'll see this car, because this is the car I'm going to drive out there and take as well. So hope you guys like it. Drop a comment, let me know. We'll talk to you guys later.